Welcome to episode 25 of Strain of the Day. I'm your host, Canna Chris, and today we are smoking Bubba Cookies. Bubba Cookies is an indica-dominant hybrid, a combination of Girl Scout cookies and Bubba Kush, both of which we have actually done in the past, which is pretty cool. Now we get to try their baby. Yay! The effects are supposed to be happy, relaxed, euphoric. The terpenes are beta and alpha, I should have said that either, alpha and beta pinene, humulene, linalool, beta caryophyllene, and lastly myrcene. And based on those terpenes, we can say that it's supposed to be tasting piney, earthy, floral, and I would say that is definitely accurate. The pine from the alpha and beta pinene being the strongest flavor coming through for sure. So, in the last episode, episode 24, I was wondering what causes cottonmouth. Now, for those of you who maybe don't know, cottonmouth is one of the very few adverse reactions a person gets to cannabis. This is something that anybody who's tried cannabis very much is going to have reported similar symptoms, where it kind of dries your mouth, that you get really thirsty, you get feeling literally it's called cottonmouth because it sometimes feels like there's literally cotton in your mouth. And once it gets really bad, it's harder to come back. So I did do some research and I found out why it happens. Now, I had speculated before that maybe certain terpenes were worse for this than others, because sometimes certain strains seem to cause it more than others. But there's not always causality where there's correlation. And that is the case here. It's not so much the different strains cause it differently, it's different circumstances. So if you're drinking and hydrating really well that day, and then you smoke and then you hydrate again, you may not have as bad a cottonmouth as somebody who perhaps drank less or drank something that wasn't as hydrating or whatever. So let's talk about what causes the cottonmouth. So first of all, quick little side thing. In your skull, you've got the two mouth bones. The one up here, your maxilla, that your top teeth are, up here. Down here is called a mandible. So the reason I tell you this is because, now I've mentioned in the past that the human body has cannabinoid receptors in it, in your brain and in your gut. What I've learned today is you also have cannabinoid receptors in your submandibular, or submandibular, I should say, salivatory glands. So you have glands underneath your jaw, kind of under here. You can kind of feel them when you get sick. You can kind of feel them swell up a little bit sometimes. And they actually have cannabinoid receptors in them, in the saliva glands. Sorry, my words today are having a hard time. So when you smoke or eat, actually, vaping, eating, any form of using cannabis in any way, is going to flood all of your cannabinoid receptors in your body, the brain, the gut, the submandibular saliva glands, and any others that I maybe am not even yet aware of. It floods them with the cannabinoids, obviously, right? And the reason you get feeling high is because sometimes those receptors get a little bit overwhelmed when they're not used to having it, which is, again, why you build a tolerance, because as your receptors get used to a certain level of cannabinoid processing, then you no longer get that feeling of being high. So then if you smoke more or ingest more, then you overwhelm those receptors, and that's when you get high. Good news on that front, the medicinal properties of cannabis work whether you're high or not. Whether those receptors are overwhelmed or they're just processing normal, you're going to have the euphoria, the relaxation, these things. So that's awesome. Ways to make it so that maybe your saliva glands don't get overwhelmed. My number one suggestion for you would be to chew gum. Chewing instigates, it's not quite the word I was going for, but it works, instigates your saliva production. It increases because, of course, then you're sending signals to your brain saying, hey, I'm eating something, and so it's going to make the saliva, because your saliva begins the process of breaking down your food, right? Another thing you can do, candy, any kind of candy really, is going to do basically the same thing, where it's going to really, like that sugary candy stuff is going to really get your saliva going as well. Mouthwash can help, and chewing on ice or things like that can help. But number one, I would say, if you're like, oh, the cotton mouth is so bad, I'd say get yourself some minty gum. That is gonna just, as far as I've ever found anyway, and it just takes care of it. Anyway, thank you for going on my little scientific, medical, whatever you want to call it, journey here. I love that I got to learn something new about the cannabis and how it affects my body. I hope that you guys find that interesting and that you maybe didn't know before, or if you did know, good on you. Like, awesome. Maybe you should be teaching me some things. Yeah. Did I go over everything? Let's see. We talked about the terpenes, effects, the origins. And we talked about how the cottonmouth is affected by THC, tetrahydrocannabinoid. So that's the THC is what that's the psychoactive that causes the highness or whatever. CBD doesn't make you high. These are two of the many cannabinoids that are found in cannabis, and it's the THC that causes the cottonmouth. So if you're somebody who's taking CBD drops or doing CBD in any way, you don't need to be concerned about cottonmouth. That's not going to... CBD does not overwhelm your cannabinoid receptors. Period. It just doesn't. Not to my knowledge, anyway, and not in my experience. I have used CBD a lot, and I found it safe across the board. THC, however, whether it's indica or sativa, whether it's in a edible or in a vape or in a joint, it can cause cottonmouth, which is easily combated with gum. There. All right. Thanks again. Have a fantastic day. Please let me know in the comments if you knew what caused cottonmouth, or if you're at all surprised, because I find this shit interesting, and I hope you do too. See y'all later.